What a great opportunity to be able to sit down and talk with the new director of the Indiana State Department of Ag, Don Lamb. It's always a delight to come out here to Huntington University for the Harvest Dinner. You were the keynote speaker tonight. I had a lot of great things to talk about. We've got a lot of challenging things coming up. We've got a state session here in January, and you were talking about some of the issues that maybe we need to deal with in that session, one of which is land use. Over the last probably 10 years here in the state, we've had our challenges, with annexation and, the whole tax thing. Give us a kind of an overview, a feeling for what it is that you expect out of this session with regard to land use.
Well, first, thanks for having me here, and thanks for the great opportunity to be here at Huntington. And they are doing some really great things here with agriculture. And you, like you say, from a Christian perspective, it's really fun to watch what they're putting together here. As far as the land use, I got to have a little disclaimer and say this will be the first time I've gone into a session. So I came in the middle of the last session. So I'm still fairly inexperienced at what it's like to anticipate a session, to be ready for a session, to prepare for a session.
Yeah, but you've got a great staff.
And so we've got a great staff. And so last year's session had us create a land use loss of farmland inventory that we worked on and through the ISDA. So we'll have a better picture of what you said. In the last 10 years, what has it changed from agriculture to what? And we'll have an idea of what is changing in our state. We all have a good idea of what we think's happening, but this will put a little more nuts and bolts to it, a little more specifics to it.
Yeah, we get a sense, and you mentioned this in your talk tonight, we get a sense that maybe some of these solar farms and these big windmills and everything are going to take over some of the best farmland in the world. That, I think, from the farmer's perspective, is kind of that concern. And so this study that's going to give us a better sense of that?
Yeah, well, it'll tell us what it has changed from and what it's changed to. It won't be necessarily specific to solar or some of the renewable energy things, but it's part of that picture. And the discussion is all about the same things. You got property rights issues where, if you own land, you ought to be able to do with your land what you want to do with that land. But then it does have an effect on the community around you and the income on the tax base and things like that. So all those things have to be analyzed. If it was an easy answer to that question, we'd answered a long time ago. So there's going to be a lot of discussion about renewable energy, about solar, about land use. And it's just one of those areas where you have to really break down every situation and analyze it for what it is and try to keep the emotion out of it as much as possible.
The other one you mentioned is water, and that, how gnarly is that whole thing? And like you said, if it was easy, we would have gotten that fixed a long time ago, but politics get in the way.
Right.
And did a story just this past week about how Congress is trying to work in the farmers' behalf to try and get this thing to stop bouncing around so much, because it's difficult for us as farmers to figure out what I can do today that I couldn't do yesterday, because this thing just keeps on changing. You mentioned water. Is that a part of what you see going to happen in the session, or just one of your priorities?
Well, when I think about the water at the state session, it has more to do with where we're getting water from for certain things, whether it's development or irrigation or other things. You've got where you get water from, and then you got the whole idea of how do we get rid of water effectively in an environmentally friendly way. And so on the federal level, we talk a lot about WOTUS. We talk a lot about navigable waters and how we make sure that we're not eroding our land away and things like that. On the state level, the real focus probably is more on the other side. If we need water for a function of development, let's say, and we don't have enough in a certain area, where do we get that water from, and how can we do that effectively without hurting that other area? So with the LEAP development that's happening in Boone County and the possibility of bringing water down from Lafayette, that's got a lot of interest in the water issue at this time.
Well, in precedent setting, I should suspect to some degree or another. Talking with the new director of the Indiana State Department of Agriculture, you are involved in something I'm wildly excited about, because Ted McKinney's involved in it, Bruce Kettler, your predecessor, involved in it. It's called NASDA. Farming is so funny. We've got so many acronyms for so much stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. NASDA, the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture. Every state has got somebody like me, whether they're called a director or they're called a secretary or they're called a commissioner. We get together on a federal level and talk about the issues that are affecting each of our states. And Ted McKinney is the leader of that for the national organization. So he's from Indiana. He's got great Indiana roots. He's going to bring Indiana along anywhere he can for the benefit of Indiana. But he does such a great job of aggressively leading that group to make policy decisions and to help develop policy on a national level.
What a great organization, because we get input from every state that has ag in it, number one. But number two, boy, I'll tell you what, Teddy has really lit a fire under that organization.
Yeah, he does not sit still. And, you think about every state has got a really high-quality staff that's leading their Department of Agriculture. So you've got a lot of really great people, and if you can just channel that energy in the right direction, you can get a lot of good things done, and he's a master at doing that.
And we've got so many issues on our plate. Talk Prop 12 out of California just as one just crazy issue that we're trying to deal with.
Yeah, there's about 30 issues that NASDA has prioritized into Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Of course, Farm Bill is top of that. That's one big issue, right down through labor reform, right down through water, all sorts of things.
Well, and a lot of that stuff actually falls under the umbrella of the Farm Bill. So, that's job one here for 2024. State Director of the Indiana Department of Agriculture, Don Lamb, thanks so much for your time. Sure appreciate it. This is probably one of many.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate being on.
Podcasts by Federated Media.